House Campaign Committee. He is in charge of protecting the Republican majority. This is a pretty safe Republican district. This is very early in the vote count. This would be stunning if this were to happen, frankly. If Steve Stivers was spending so much attention trying to protect the Republican majority around the country that he was stunned back at home. Again, midterm years do give us surprises. This is a race we've been watching throughout the year. The Stivers race not on a list of the district you think is going to flip. This one is on a district we have keep an eye on. Again, a Republican district. You see the Democratic candidate, 10,000 votes in a House district. That's a pretty healthy lead as you watch that play out. Where's the other one in Ohio? Let's come up here. And look, this is an open seat. And you see here, again, the Democratic candidate running ahead, but a narrow margin, and that's early in the vote count. I want to pull back out to the national map. I've been saying this a lot. Magic number is 23. Democrats have to flip 23 seats. They think there are a lot of opportunities here. We're going to start seeing more poll closings as well. But interesting. Just for the roller coaster back and forth tonight, we could be at this a while. We showed you in Virginia a little while ago, the Democrats, I'm going to check this. I just want to check this, come back to the map, just come back and make sure I'm right about this. Come back in here. Yes. So a moment ago, we showed you the Republicans were ahead here. The Democrats were ahead here in the Dave Brat district. That has changed. So let's go back and take a look at it. In these close races, we're going to have a little roller coaster as results come in. Now we're up to 37%. Dave Brat has inched ahead a little bit. By 533 votes. And so 533 votes, we may have a lot of races late into the night where we have them very competitive because this is a place a Democrat in a normal year cannot win. We're in a midterm year, and the Democrats think they have a wind at their back, in part because of the president's trouble here in the suburbs. And so you're going to see this roller coaster back and forth. Precinct here comes in. Abigail Spanberger pulls ahead. Votes up here in the more rural area come in. Dave Brat pulls it ahead. We're going to be going throughout this through the night. So you come back and look at the map, and you come out to the national map, and you look right there. You have 12 Democrats leading in Republican districts. That's one Republican leading in that Democrat. So at the moment, this is leading, not called. That's net 11. You need 23. If you're the Democrats, you think, okay, let's see how the results keep coming in. But you think if you're the Democrats, especially because we only have results in this small portion of the country, you're laying the building blocks that you need, but there's a lot of counting.
Yeah, Democrats have high hopes in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Some of the contests, we got a key race alert, Dana.
Well, if it doesn't get more Trump country than West Virginia, at least not tonight. The president won there by more than 40 points, and right now the incumbent Democrat, Joe Manchin, is ahead. He's almost at 60%. The Republican challenger, Patrick Morrisey, is trailing with 35.5%. It is very early, only 2% of the vote in, but this is something that's absolutely critical. As is Florida. Look at that. Bill Nelson, the Democratic incumbent, is holding on, 51.6%. Rick Scott, the Republican challenger, 48.4%. More than half of the vote is in Florida. This is an interesting state, always is, Wolf, as you know. But the question is whether or not the early votes are contributing to this. Record early voting for a midterm in Florida. And I'm actually going to go to Nia now for some results in the governor's race.
That's right, in Florida, Dana, this race we've been watching closely. Andrew Gillum still ahead, about 120,000 vote lead at this point over Ron DeSantis. You can see about 53% of the vote is in at this point. It's a tight race down there at 2 points in Ohio. We'll go to here. Richard Cordray, the Democrat in this Midwestern state, over Mike DeWine at this point by about 16 points. It is way early in this race. About a 90,000 vote lead for Richard Cordray at this point, 16% reporting. And we can also go to Georgia, this other closely watched race. Brian Kemp, the Republican, ahead at this point over Stacey Abrams of the Democrat. You can see the vote spread there, about 48,000 votes at this point. Really early, 4% in at this point. We'll keep watching all of these races. I'm going to hand you over to Wolf.
Nia, thank you very much. Jake, let's step back a little bit. Look at the big picture in Florida right now. The Senate contest, the gubernatorial contest, the two Democratic candidates are ahead, and a significant number of votes have already been counted.
Yeah, that's right. Now, of course, there are still some polling places open in the western part of the state. They get very touchy when we talk about these numbers without acknowledging that there are still people voting on the western and the panhandle of Florida. But yeah, right now, when we're looking at these numbers, and it's still early yet, it looks like the Democrats are performing well in a state that Donald Trump won in 2016. Andrew Gillum and Senator Nelson as well, both doing well so far in these early numbers.
It's very interesting right now. If you take a look at Florida, the Democrats are getting excited, but as you correctly point out, Central Time Zone parts of Florida, those votes are still being, people are still voting.
That's right. And if you look at the board in general, I mean, Democrats are leading in a lot of these seats, and they look to be on track to have a good night. But we don't know ultimately what's going to happen. They're doing what they need to do. But ultimately, in the Democrats' consensus, when you talk to them or text them or email them, they feel like they were burned in 2016 by expectations being set by exit polls, and before that by regular polls, and so everybody's being very cautious.
Everybody's watching Florida oh so carefully right now. Potentially, the Democrats do well there. They think that could set some objectives going ahead.
Theoretically, if they win the governor's office and the Senate office, and they pick up 2 or 3 House seats, that puts them on track to do what they need to do.
We got a projection right now. Our first House projection right now, CNN projects that Jennifer Wexton, the Democratic challenger in Virginia, northern Virginia suburb of Washington, D.C., Jennifer Wexton will become the next U.S. representative from Virginia in that district. She beats the incumbent Republican Barbara Comstock. This is a big win for the Democrats, and as a result, the Democrats now need 22 Republican seats. They need 22 Republican seats. It's gone down from 23 in order to get the majority, Jake, in the House of Representatives, assuming they don't lose any of their own seats.
Well, this is not a surprise. This is a good pickup for the Democrats. It's not a surprise. This is the heart of the resistance, Northern Virginia. Hillary Clinton won this district 2 years ago. Barbara Comstock was able, she's a skilled politician, she was able to still win in 2016, but this time she had a very able opponent, soon to be Congresswoman-elected Jennifer Wexton, who labeled her, instead of Barbara Comstock, Barbara Trumpstock, and pointed out that even if she every now and then distanced herself from President Trump, she voted with President Trump. This is not a surprise, but it is it's the first big pickup for the Democrats.
But what does it say about potential other pickups?
It shows that Donald Trump, as we have been saying for a long time, and Republicans and Paul Ryan have been warning about for some time, is toxic in a lot of the suburbs, and specifically, and we'll get down to the breakdown in the exit polls about this, specifically with a lot of Republican and white college-educated women. And he's toxic with them because of the way he talks, because of the way he doesn't convey empathy at times when there is national tragedy, and that was a motivating factor. This is also, of course, we should point out, largely a Democratic district, but it is one that a Republican had control over for several years.
Yeah, you and I know this district very well because it's suburbs of Washington, D.C. We're closing in on one of the most critical hours of this election night with the biggest round of poll closings coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern. All voting ends in Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, the District of Columbia, Florida, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Tennessee. Jake, those states could hold the balance for the Democrats if they're going to do well tonight.
Absolutely, Wolf. In New Jersey and the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Democrats have an opportunity to win about 1/3 of the Republican-held House seats that they need to reclaim the majority. 1/3. Now, one of their best shots at a House pickup is in the Garden State, New Jersey. Former prosecutor and Navy helicopter pilot Mikey Sherrill is aiming to flip the open seat in her conservative-leaning district. She faces a Trump-backed Republican state lawmaker, Jay Weber. We're also watching 3 high-profile Senate contests in Florida, as we've been talking about. Democratic incumbent Bill Nelson currently leading the state's Republican governor, Rick Scott, with more than half of the votes already in from that state. In Missouri, Senator Claire McCaskill is one of the most vulnerable red state Democrats running for re-election. She faces the Republican Attorney General, Josh Hawley. And in Tennessee, former Democratic Governor Phil Bredesen and Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn are in a toss-up race. This is one of the few states where Democrats have a shot, a thin shot, but a shot at winning a Republican-held Senate seat this evening. We'll see if there is a wave of any sort. We're also watching that high-stakes Florida governor's race. The Democratic mayor of Tallahassee, Andrew Gillum, now holding a solid lead in his bid to be the state's first ever African-American governor. His opponent, former Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis, is closely aligned with President Trump. Wolf?
Thanks very much. You know, things are going to start moving very quickly at the top of the hour when a whole bunch of these states close. But give us a big picture of where things stand in the House right now.
8 o'clock hour will give us many more clues to the House. You start to get New Jersey. Democrats think they have some pickups there. Other results coming as well. But let's look at where we are right now. And as you were talking to me, as you started speaking, well, something changed on the map, and I'll show you about it in a minute. These numbers can be a bit confusing because 56 Republicans are leading, most of them in solid Republican districts. 43 Democrats are leading, most of them in safe Democratic districts. So let's just filter it out and look at what are the races we're watching that we have not called that are potential pickup opportunities. And you see 11 Democrats leading in Republican-held districts, 1 Republican leading in Democrats districts. So we've already reduced the magic number to 22 by calling that Virginia race. Democrat, that would be halfway if they won all those races, halfway. The Republican district remains the same one we showed you earlier down here. I just want to say this is usually a safe Democratic district. We only have 4% of the vote. We'll see if this plays out. Midterm elections, every election can bring a surprise. This would be a big surprise if Sanford Bishop loses his House district down there, especially in a year like this. So where are the Democratic targets of opportunity? We have a couple out here in Ohio. I just want to come back into Virginia because this one has been back and forth all night long. We've already called this, so if you're watching at home, you say, what about the 10th district? It's not on this map because we've called this race for Jennifer Wexler. So we'll come back here now. This is one that's been going back and forth all night, so let's just check. The Democrat, Abigail Spanberger, now 2,500 votes ahead, 50%, 48%, a very close race still. In the 7th Congressional District, one of the big battlegrounds inside Virginia, Democrats are hoping not just to get the 10th, but to get 1, possibly 2, but 1 more. They want
Almost
this one.
half the vote, is it?
They want this one out of Virginia, almost half the vote. The question is it from the suburbs or is it from up here? So we're going to watch this one as we go through the night. Let's pull it back out. See more targets of opportunity for the Democrats in North Carolina. This one here would be a bit of a surprise, but we're going to check in on it. The Democrat leading in this race in South Carolina, that would be a pickup opportunity. And if you're the Democrats, you have a list of, we got to win these. You got another list of, we really like to win these and we think it's possible. And then you have a list of, okay, if there is a big blue wave, can we get some others? So we'll watch this play out. Florida, critical to the Democratic hopes, and they are right now, leading. And remember, you've got the Democratic candidate leading for Senate, the Democratic candidate leading for governor. Sometimes there's a coattail effect. These Democrats, these races were competitive anyway. But you have the Democrats leading here in Florida 18. Ryan Mast is a Republican incumbent. That's a pretty healthy lead with 35% of the vote in, but it's only 35%, so we'll keep counting. That would be the pickup for the Democrats there. Let's come on down here. You come down here. This is a Republican incumbent, another Republican incumbent. Brian Mast won. He's losing at the moment. Carlos Curbelo trailing at the moment. Pretty close. It's a much closer race so far. Watch this one play out. This has been hotly contested. A moderate Republican at odds with the White House quite frequently. In the neighboring district here, again, Donna Shalano leading, but that's pretty close. That's pretty close. Both of these races likely to be affected by the governor's race and the Senate
Well,
race.
let's take a look at the Florida senator's race and governor's race.
Just
Looks like it's getting a little...
one more quick point I want to make because we've been tracking this race all night. What's missing? The Republican has moved ahead in Kentucky 6. And so we're going to watch this. It was 66%. It's a 4,600 vote lead. But this was a target of opportunity for the Democrats on the outer limit. If they're winning here, they think they're getting to 30, somewhere in the ballpark of 30 seats. But that one has switched back now. So let's come back to the map. You want to look, let's pull back out Florida. Let's switch over to the Senate. You see the map starting to fill in. And you see this is Florida. You can change the names and you'd have a very close race. So what do we have? 51-49, 92,000 votes. It's a healthy lead. You're happy to have it. In a state like Florida, that can't change. The question is, can it change? And so you were just talking about this with Jake. We have to wait. These are generally Republican areas. We have nothing.
Polls haven't closed it.
Right. Nothing out here yet. So we're waiting for the top of the hour. We'll start to see results come in. This, if you're in the Republican campaign quarters, when the polls close, you already have some input from your field operations. You know who you've turned out today. That needs to, for the Republican candidates, whether it's the Senate race or the competitive governor's race, that needs to fill in red. So let's just take a look right here. Let's just say how this Duval County, this should be a very swing county here. It's pretty competitive. We'll see how the results come in here. So you're watching this, just check down here where we are. 75%, 8 o'clock at night, Wolf, 75% Palm Beach County. That's breaking news in its own right. You have Broward County here, 57% Miami-Dade County here. And again, let's come back out statewide. Remember the numbers. 51, call it 52 up, call that 49. That's the race for Senate. Move it over here. 50,